Hello, good morning. You're watching Market Cafe on ET now. I'm Vinny Motiwal along with Sneha as well. Sneha, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Vinny.
Global markets are expected. US markets, nothing exciting because of the Middle East tensions that we're seeing. But how is it looking like in terms of the futures? What else happened in the European markets?
Well, absolutely, Vinny. Futures are absolutely flat as we speak, but yes, much expected choppiness that the street was penciling on the back of all of these political worries coming in. That's exactly what the US markets have seen yesterday. And well, futures are rather flat as we speak after a major closing day coming in for the markets. Now, Wall Street is coming off a choppy day for the major benchmarks. Dow has dropped almost 250.6% lower. Sixth straight day of losses coming in for the Dow. Blue chip index erased almost all of its 2024 gains, a major reversal considering that just weeks ago it had approached that 40,000 level. So that's quite a reversal coming in when it comes to the Dow's moves. On the other side, then you have the S&P 500 that was down a solid 1.2%. Nasdaq has underperformed its other benchmarks. Its peers as well tumbled 1.8% in yesterday's trading session. Now these losses follow a rise in yield that had investors shrugging off strong earnings from Goldman Sachs as well as hot retail sales data as well. The 10-year treasury yield is the one to watch out for because that has now gone ahead and topped 4.6%, its highest level since November. Elsewhere, investors were concerned of escalating tensions in the Middle East after Iran's launch of missiles and drones at Israel on Saturday. Now, the CBOE volatility index, commonly referred to as the fear gauge, closed at its highest level since October. So that's another important indicator that we'll be watching out for as well. Now, on the earnings, then you have big bank earnings. They will continue today as well with the release of results from Bank of America, Johnson & Johnson and Morgan Stanley. Other key reports included from United Health and United Airlines are also due to come out today. Traders will also be watching out for the latest reading of housing starts and building permits today to gain insight into the health of the housing sector. And industrial production data is also set for release before the US market opens today. So a choppy trade coming in on the US markets. When I should focus on looking at European markets, Vinny, it's not all that bad, right? Because DAX was up more than 0.5%. FTSE is the one that closed in the red, down of 0.4% coming in over there. But Stock 600, which is the pan-European index, that has closed with an uptick of around 1/10 or 0.2%. But well, yes, in the green as well. So not mirroring the moves on US. Europe is looking rather resilient as of now, Vinny. But with all of these geopolitical tensions that we've been seeing, take us through what's happening in the oil.
So absolutely, when you're looking at it, crude prices $90, just around $90, slightly above the $90 per barrel mark that we're seeing for the Brent crude oil prices. Last 1 week, we've seen the Brent crude oil increase by almost 1.5%. Let's not forget, obviously, the Middle East tensions. That's a concern that comes in for the oil prices, and that is what is the reason that is keeping the oil prices around that $90 per barrel mark. Overall, when you're looking in terms of the WTI crude oil prices, that's also seeing a bit of an up move. And this morning also we're seeing a bit of an up move for both WTI as well as Brent crude oil prices. Brent crude oil is up almost 5/10 to 6/10%. Similarly for WTI crude oil also at $85-86 per barrel mark, WTI crude oil. So yes, that's what's keeping the crude oil prices up as well. When you're looking at it in terms of gold prices, they are 2,399.90, so really near the 1,400 mark. And obviously we've seen a buying coming in gold, and that's keeping the gold prices a bit higher. Now in terms when you're looking at the Brent crude oil futures, overnight they saw a bit of decline, but as of now this morning we've seen a rise again for the Brent crude oil price. Let's keep an eye out on crude oil as well as gold, where that's headed. Something interesting that we'll watch out for, given that the geopolitical tensions are increasing, then we may see an increase there.
Well, absolutely, Vinny. Commodities in focus, and yesterday also Nifty metal was the pack that did rather well compared to its other peers on the back of that LME news coming in as well. So metals and commodities including gold will continue to be in focus. But moving on, then let's take a look at all the important cues you need to be watching out for in today's trading session. Like I mentioned earlier, you have industrial production data coming in from the US before market opens. From the UK, you have jobless claims as well as unemployment data coming out today, and from China, important retail sales, industrial production as well as GDP. Now that we'll be watching out for closely when it comes from China. When you look at earnings today, you have CRISIL Limited as well as Saturn Credit Care. They'll be coming out with their numbers today, and even for the course of the week, you have big companies from like Infosys, Bajaj Auto, Wipro and HDFC Life all set previous year results on the 18th going ahead. Moving on then, let's take a look at all the corporate action that will be in focus today. The boards of Den Network as well as Integra Essentia will be meeting today to consider audited results, and the rights issue of Mishtan Foods will be closing today, so watch out for that as well. And when it comes to other global news, then the Bank of India Governor Andrew Bailey will be speaking at an IMF meeting today. Fed Chair Jerome Powell is all slated to speak today, so we'll be watching out closely for what he has to say and what's his outlook when it comes to the inflation commentary and any hints of the Fed going ahead and cutting those interest rates. And FOMC members Mary Daly and Thomas will also be speaking, so we'll be watching out for their commentary as well. And the IMF will be publishing its latest World Economic Outlook, and they will also be holding a briefing. So well, all of these are the major events that we need to be watching out for in the trading session, Winnie.
Absolutely keeping an eye out on these major events in the trading session today. But let's move on and kickstart talking about what are the important global stories. And kickstarting the morning news on the macro front that we have, March US retail sales have increased 0.7%, which is more than the expectation amid a surge in the receipts at the online retailers. Meanwhile, the strong retail sale prompted economists to boost its gross domestic product growth estimate for the first quarter to 3.1% annualized from previous at a 2.5% pace.
Well, and on the global earnings front, then Goldman Sachs has the first quarter earnings beating the street estimates, which was led by a surge in trading and investment banking revenue. The bank reported a profit jump of 28% on a year-on-year basis, and Goldman Sachs shares climbed 3% on the back of stellar quarter one earnings.
And let's talk about Tesla. EV giant Tesla has announced that the company will lay off more than 10% of its global workforce, which makes up almost 14,000 employees. Amid a slowdown in the EV demand and intensifying price wars, Tesla CEO Elon Musk said in an internal memo that the company is preparing for the next phase of growth, and hence the company is looking for cost reductions and increasing productivity. This development has led to Tesla shares to fall almost 5% on Monday.
Well, Apple's iPhone shipments dropped almost 10% in quarter one of 2024 due to intensifying competition by Android smartphone makers as they aim for the top spot. However, global smartphone shipments saw an increase of 6.8% during January to March, with Samsung at 20.8% market share, clinching the top smartphone maker spot in the market. Meanwhile, Xiaomi, one of China's top smartphone makers, occupied the third position with a market share of 14.1%.
Okay, and ahead of the Lok Sabha elections, Prime Minister Narendra Modi spoke to a news agency about his vision for development of the country, the need for more foreign investments in India, and the electoral bonds. Here's an excerpt of that conversation.
एलन मस्क मोदी के प्रशंसक है, वो अपनी जगह पे है, मूलतः वो भारत के प्रशंसक है। हम हर क्षेत्र में चाहते हैं कि लोग टेक्नोलॉजी ट्रांसफर करें, हम चाहते हैं कि लोग पूंजी निवेश करें, हम चाहते हैं कि हमारे देश के नौजवानों को रोजगार मिले। मैं चाहता हूं हिंदुस्तान में निवेश आना चाहिए, क्योंकि भारत में वो चीजें जिसमें पैसा किसी का भी लगा हो, पसीना मेरे देश का लगना चाहिए, उसके अंदर सुगंध मेरे देश की मिट्टी की आनी चाहिए, ताकि मेरे देश के नौजवानों को रोजगार मिले। तो मेरे मन में 2047 ये भारत की आजादी के 100 साल और देश में एक प्रेरणा जगनी चाहिए, और आजादी के 100 साल अपने आप एक बहुत इंस्पिरेशन है, किसी व्यक्ति की जरूरत नहीं है। तो एक पार्ट तो है, दूसरा है 2024। 2024 ये चुनाव का हमारा जो क्रम है 5 साल का, उसके हिसाब से वो आया हुआ क्रम है, और मैं मानता हूं कि चुनाव ऑल टुगेदर डिफरेंट थिंग है। मैं पिछले 2 साल से 2047 को ध्यान में रख के काम करता था, और उसके लिए मैंने देश भर में लोगों के ओपिनियन मांगे, सुझाव मांगे। शायद 15 लाख से अधिक लोगों के मैंने सुझाव दिए हैं कि वो आने वाले 25 साल में हिंदुस्तान को कैसे देखना चाहते हैं, और मैंने सभी यूनिवर्सिटीज़ को कांटेक्ट किया, मैंने अलग एनजीओ को कांटेक्ट किया, संगठनों को, और 15-20 लाख उन्होंने इनपुट दिया। फिर मैंने एआई की मदद लेकर के उसको सब्जेक्ट वाइज बनाया।
All right, well, that's the word coming in from the Prime Minister. But viewers, with that, we'll slip into a very short break on this edition of Market Cafe. But when we return, we'll take a look at the impact of whatever's happening in the world on the Asian markets and how they've opened up this morning. It doesn't look like a pretty picture, Winnie, but well, we'll take you through more about that after the break, so stay tuned. So hi there, welcome back. You're still watching Market Cafe with us on ET. Now let's take a look at what's happening on the political front then. And after the BJP released its poll manifesto, Times Network Group editor Navina Kumar caught up in an exclusive conversation with ministers from the Modi cabinet to decode the ruling party's poll strategy and their vision for developed India. Listen in.
Whether it is aimed at employment or not, it is certainly aimed at helping the MSMEs and the small ticket loan seekers. The small ticket loan seekers are the people who cannot give collaterals at all. We had extended a lot of help for them. Their businesses are in a sense, and I'm not directly saying this, but in a sense, their businesses are the ones which provide the collateral for themselves, because as the business flourishes, their power, their creditworthiness improves.
2026 में पहली बुलेट ट्रेन चलने लगेगी। ये विश्व में इसका आज चर्चा हो रही है कि तेजी से काम कैसे हो रहा है। इसीलिए मोदी जी ने आज और 3 बुलेट ट्रेन प्रोजेक्ट की घोषणा की है। किस तरह से उत्तर में, पूर्व में और दक्षिण में एक-एक प्रोजेक्ट पे सर्वे आरंभ किया जाएगा मोदी जी की 3rd टर्म के स्टार्ट होते ही।
As we see across the country today, the Modi to empower every citizen of the country is truly satisfying the people much more than a short-term benefit that people used to do in the past.
मोदी की गारंटी, जो कहा वो किया। धारा 370-35 को हटाने की बात हो, ट्रिपल तलाक से निजात दिलाने की बात हो, सीए का कानून बनाने की बात हो, भव्य राम मंदिर का निर्माण करने की बात हो, या फिर भारत में भ्रष्टाचार मुक्त शासन देना हो, गरीबों का कल्याण करना हो, जो मोदी ने कहा वो करके दिखाया।
2024 के चुनाव का मैनिफेस्टो, दिस इज ऑल्सो अ विजन स्टेटमेंट। इसमें ये 48 पेज के डॉक्यूमेंट में पहले पेज में ये बताया गया है कि हमने पिछले 10 साल में विकास में क्या क्या हमारे आंकड़े हैं और अगले आने वाले समय में क्या होगा। और ये विजन डॉक्यूमेंट जो है, मैं समझता हूं गोल्ड स्टैंडर्ड है। इस विजन डॉक्यूमेंट से ये स्पष्ट होता है 2024 से लेके 2029 तक क्या होगा, और जो विकसित भारत बनना है 2047 तक, उसमें जो नींव डाल रहे हैं वो किस किस्म से, किस तरीके से वो विकसित भारत बने।
Okay, and moving on, news for from the Election Commission, they are on track for the highest ever seizures of incumbents in the Lok Sabha election, with rupees 100 crore seized daily since 1st of March and total of 4,650 crores, already surpassing all previous records. Sumit Chaturvedi is joining in with us to give us more details on it.
Well, looking at how cash is the king when it comes to elections, well, the Caesars say it all. If you look at figures, let's talk about figures. Well, so far, 4,650 crore rupees has been seized by Election Commission of India. And since March, 100 crore rupees every day have been seized. It shows the overall way the cash is prevalent still in the election system. The seizures have happened since March 1st. 4,650 record in Lok Sabha election. In 2019, if we give you the figures for the whole of 2019, they were 3,475,000 crore, around 3,500. But this time, it's over 4,500 crore, a record seizure. Also in 2019, 2,068 worth crore of rupees drug seized. 2019, 1,279. And so a lot of we can say that abuse of these things is rampant generally during election season. But Election Commission of India is on overdrive and have seized all that. Elections are kicking off on is Friday. Well, clearly 7th phase election and results will be announced on 4th. So it shows that what kind of overall Caesars Election Commission of India has done.
That's very interesting data. Thanks for that. So, but we also caught up in conversation with T.S. Krishnamurthy, former Chief Election Commissioner of India. Listen into what he had to say on the same.
Election Commission doesn't have the power except to prescribe the ceiling on expenditure on the part of the candidates. There is no ceiling on expenditure in respect of political parties. So the only way it can be done is to statutorily bring about a change. Whether we should follow a free system like the American system where you do not have any control at all, or whether you want to ensure that the funding is done in a more transparent method, where it is equal to all the candidates, where the parties are not allowed to spend the money except from the public funding of election. So these are the only two options available. The sooner the decision is found by the political party, they must have a consensus. It's unfortunate in the election manifestos of all parties, nobody talks about the reforms, electoral reforms in respect of funding elections. This is the most important requirement which I think all stakeholders should address. And I have already suggested public funding of the elections through a national election fund, where the corporates can donate to the election fund. The present system of donating it to political party.
Let's move on and talk about some important stocks that are in focus today. Swan Energy, that's going to be in focus after they've completed the acquisition of Reliance Naval, which will soon be relisted on the bourses. Now, what will be the implications on the company? Someone is joining in with us to give us more details and help us understand how this will be working.
Well, if you see, Swan Energy would be in focus because Reliance Naval, they have completed the acquisition, and this acquisition was done through the NCLT process, and now Reliance Naval will soon get listed again on the exchanges. Now, this acquisition is done by Swan Energy through a special purpose vehicle named Hazel Infra Limited, and in this Hazel Infra Limited, Swan Energy owns around 74% stake, while the remaining 26% is owned by Hazel Mercantile. Now, Hazel Infra had made a initial payment of around 300 odd crore rupees, while the remaining 1,850 crore rupees needs to be paid over the next 5 years. Now, Hazel Infra, in fact, in Reliance Naval would own around 95% stake on listing, while the remaining 5% will be owned by the earlier retail shareholders of Reliance Naval. So that was the kind of swap ratio that we had seen. One share of the new company for 275 shares that they already already holding earlier. Now, some information about the Reliance Naval. The company is into naval shipbuilding, oil and gas, rig repair, aviation, commercial shipbuilding, and also into heavy engineering. Now, do remember, Reliance was the first private sector company in India to obtain the license to build warship, and has also India's largest integrated shipbuilding facility in the country. Now, it can accommodate vessels up to 4 lakh DWT, that is dead weight tonnage. That's how the ship's size is measured, and it houses the only modular shipbuilding facility in India. Reliance Naval has fully developed seafront along with shipyard and has connectivity to air, road and railway, all three connectivity modes that it has, which means that this asset is very strong, very good in terms of connectivity and also in terms of importance for Swan Energy going forward. Now, if you see the current inventory that Swan Energy will get with this Reliance Naval is around 11 ships, which are in the range of around 50 to 90 odd %, and the value of this semi-furnished inventory stands at around 2,000 crore rupees, and the company aims to monetize these semi-finished inventory first, so that they could generate some cash flow and make the further payments that they need to make to NCLT. Apart from that, the company also aims to become the largest player in green shipbuilding and hub for a global ship repairing in India, and going forward the company aims to take new orders for shipbuilding, ship repairing from FY26, FY25, FY26, and also given the fact that government's focus remains on defense and the global capacity is also constrained when it comes to ship repair and shipbuilding. This augurs well for Reliance Naval and Swan Energy going forward.
All right, Somit, thanks for taking us through that. So Swan Energy will be in on the back of that acquisition. But Somit, while you're with us, talk to us about another stock that will be in focus today, and that is Gujarat Gas, on the back of this hike that we've in Asia LNG prices. So tell us how this is going to impact Gujarat Gas and why this is going to be in focus today.
Well, the new contract of the Asia JKM, that is the Japan Korea marker prices, which is this benchmark for gas prices in the Asian region has been starting at around $10.7 per MMBTU. Now, if you see last 1 month, prices have increased by nearly 26%, and this is the highest prices that we are seeing in at least the last 3 months. So why the gas prices have been increasing? Because there is a steady rise in demand for gas, not only in Asia but also in the European country. Along with this, the Russian pipeline gas exports also declined to the European region, which has also added to the pressure, and hence we are seeing a rise in gas prices. Now, Citi's commodity team believes that gas prices average anywhere between $10 to $14 per MMBTU in the second quarter and in the to the fourth quarter of calendar year 2024, and in 2025 expecting gas prices to further rise to around $15 per MMBTU. Now, this will be negative for Gujarat Gas because they rely nearly around 50% of their industrial feedstock comes from spot LNG prices, and most of the industrial gas supply accounts for the Morbi region. Now, Morbi region accounts for nearly 40% of the total gas volumes of Gujarat Gas, and Morbi volumes, if you see, of late had fallen from their peak by around 49%. And the main reason behind this was the higher gas prices as compared to the competing fuel, that is propane prices. For every $1 per MMBTU rise in the gas prices, the gas cost in the Morbi region increases by around 3 to 3.5 per SCM, and this makes gas more expensive compared to propane, and hence we see more volume shift going towards propane, which in short impact the company's financials. Now, if the company does not take a price hike and pass on this cost to the consumers, then the margins of the company could get impacted going forward. So keep an eye out for Gujarat Gas into it.
So much for that. Let's move on, talk about IMD, and my colleague Bhavya actually managed to speak to IMD in terms of the forecast for the monsoon season. What more are they talking about it in terms of the seasonality? Let's go across to listen in.
As for the forecast issued today, there is a good news. The monsoon rainfall during September this year for the country as a whole is expected to be 100% of the long period average. The average rainfall for the country as a whole is 87 centimeter. So therefore, this year we are expecting 106% of 87 centimeter plus minus 5%. Or otherwise, you can say that rainfall is expected to be above normal this year. Considering the distribution in the country, expecting uniform distribution in most parts of South India, West India, Northwest India, Central India, with above normal probability of rainfall occurrence. However, in some eastern India, like Odisha and adjacent areas of against West Bengal, Jharkhand, northeastern states like Assam, Meghalaya, Nagaland, Manipur, Mizoram, Tripura, and northwestern states like Kashmir, Ladakh, and adjacent areas of Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand are expected to get below normal rainfall during monsoon season.
Like you mentioned, overall there's an above normal forecast for the rainfall this year, but some areas are going to get below normal rainfalls as well. So how is that going to impact the crop production across India?
Yeah, if you consider country as a whole, since it is a good monsoon year, we are expecting normal rainfall activity. Certainly, we can expect good crop production.
All right, well, that's the word coming in from the head at IMD. But moving on, then colleague Astha Chopra also caught up with Ashish Bhandari, the MD and CEO of Thermax Limited, in an exclusive interview where they discussed Thermax's commitment on focusing on all the sectors of their business. They also spoke about the demand trends and the capacity expansion going ahead. So listen into that conversation.
Two segments in particular that I had to take up. One would be this whole space of biofuels. And biofuels is everything that we are looking to do in the ethanol space, 1G, 2G ethanol, some of the work around bio-CNG and related. That whole space has come up very fast in these last couple of years. And then the power space, and specifically coal-based power plants, which 2 years ago were not in the discussion at all, in the last 6 months to a year, they have also come back into the discussion.
Okay, moving away from the numbers, can you talk about the export business, trying to expand the export business? What are your strategies?
So we have 3 plants outside of India and 1 small steam plant. Our plants are in Denmark, in Poland, 1 small plant in Germany, and a plant for heating in Indonesia. In addition, quite a bit of exports from our plants in India going into all other markets. Exports historically was a big part Thermax. The last couple of years, exports did not grow as much as our India business grew. But this coming period, I have high expectations. We have a good pipeline of projects for exports as well. And I expect exports to also have a good growth here in the period that's coming.
Okay, let's move on and let's focus to the management rejig at Byju's. The edtech firm India CEO Arjun Mohan is set to move into external advisory role, while the group CEO Byju Ravindran will return as the operational leader. Also, the board has approved the right issue proposal. Today, we do have the NCLT hearing of BCCI, a plea to initiate insolvency proceeding against Byju's. NCLT will be hearing that plea, but at least on the reject, let's go across to Anurag Joshi joining in with us to give us more details on that.
EdTech firm Byju's India CEO Arjun Mohan is stepping down. Founder and group CEO of Think and Learn that operates the Byju's brand, Byju Ravindran, will be stepping in to take a more direct and hands-on approach to the day-to-day functioning of the EdTech firm. Now, Arjun Mohan had joined last year around the time when Byju's had kicked off a key organizational revamp of the company, and this the goal of this restructuring was to streamline the operations and also cut the overhead costs of the company to make the structure leaner and to also check the costs that the company had been incurring. Separately, Byju's is now consolidating businesses into three verticals, and these verticals are learning app, the online classes and tuition centers, and the test prep, and each of them will have separate leaders that are operating them. Development comes along with Byju's receiving shareholder approval for raising its authorized capital. The company said in a statement, and 55% of the shareholder vote through a postal ballot and a recently held EGM have ratified the increase in the authorized capital. Now, the increase in the authorized capital is vital for Byju to complete recently concluded equity rights sale, and the company had raised 200 million rights issue, and this rights issue, the company says, will help it meet the near-term obligations and also cash commitments that it has, like paying vendors and clearing salaries. At the same time, the company cannot access the rights issue money because there is hearing going on before the NCLT, and the next hearing on the matter is April 23. This was on the petition of 4 key shareholders of Byju's who have sought the removal of Ravindran from the post of the group CEO, and they have had demanded that the money be moved to a separate account, and this money, Byju has moved the money to an escrow account, and it cannot use the money until the court delivers its judgment on the matter.
All right, well, that's the latest that's happening at Byju's, but let's get a move on and talk about some data that we are getting from China this morning. Then, like we told you, GDP numbers were expected. Now they're out. China's economy has grown 5.3% in the first quarter compared to a year ago, faster than the 4.6% growth that was expected by economists polled by Reuters. So this number has exceeded expectations by quite a lot. Now, data from China's National Bureau of Statistics showed that the GDP figure in January to March period was higher compared to the 5.2% seen in the fourth quarter of 2023. Now, on a sequential basis also, China's GDP has grown 1.6% compared to the Reuters expectation of 1.4%, so a slight bit of a beat on the front as well, and the fourth quarter's expansion of 1% too. Now, Beijing has sent a 2024 growth target of around 5%, so that's a that they've set. Remember, last week also, Morgan Stanley raised its 2024 real GDP forecast for China to 4.8% from expectation of 4.2%. So, well, a slight bit of an improvement when it comes to these GDP numbers on a sequential basis. On a year-on-year basis, they've exceeded the expectations by quite a lot. But on the back of that, you can see Hang Seng, not much of an improvement coming in on that front, still continues to be 1.5%. Shanghai also down 1% as we speak. But we are That, let's slip into a very short break on this edition of Market Cafe. We'll be right back with more stock-specific news and updates.
Welcome to watching Market Cafe on TV now, and let's talk about the important stocks that we should be keeping on our radar today. A lot of flows that has been coming in. Ashisha is joining in with us to give us that detail. Ashisha?
Morning. First, let's start off with Jio Financial Services, and this counter is in focus because it has signed a joint venture with BlackRock for wealth management and broking business. Company already has a tie-up with BlackRock for its mutual fund business, but a big development that has come through, because of which Jio Financial will be in focus today. Moving on to Happy Forgings, the stock in focus on the back of an order where the company said that they won orders worth about 500 crores from the one OEM manufacturer. So 500 crore order win that has come, because of which Happy Forgings will also be in focus today. Moving on to all cargo terminals, then the company has reported operational data for the month of March, where CFS volumes rose by about 8% on a month-on-month basis. They've come in at 5,47,000 TEUs, which is a growth of about 1% on a year-on-year basis. Very strong operational data. Keep an eye out on all cargo logistics as well. Moving on to GTP Hathway on the back of its results, where revenues are up 16% on a year-on-year basis. Company has reported a profit of about 12.8 crores this year versus a loss of about 12.4 crores that the company had reported same time last year. Very strong set of numbers. GTPL Hathway will also be in focus. Lastly, let's also talk about Titan, and this is on the back of an Economic Times report citing sources where they say that Apple talks with Titan's arm to assemble and manufacture iPhone components. The article also says that iPhone components are expected to be used for camera modules. Manappuram arm is also in foray. Apple may finalize a partner within the next 5 to 6 months. On the back of this Economic Times report citing sources, Titan will also be in focus today. Shesha, well, we'll be watching out for all of these stocks. With here, talk to us about this note that we've been seeing from Nuvama this morning. They initiated coverage on stationery and art material stocks like DOMS and Flair Writing. Take us through this note. Well, yes, Nuvama has initiated coverage on both those counters. First up, let's talk about DOMS, where they've initiated coverage with a buy rating and a target price of 1,944 rupees per share. The stock currently trades at 1,700 levels, so Nuvama sees nearly 15% upside from the current market price. As far as Flair is concerned, over here as well, they've initiated coverage with a buy rating with a target price of 463. The stock currently trades at about 290, 300 odd levels, implying 60% upside from the current market price. They're very positive on the outlook going forward, where they say that Indian stationery and art market is expected to report a CAGR of about 13% over the period FY 23 to 28. They go on to talk about India's positioning, where they believe that India is poised to be the exports hub of stationery market and stationery products. Higher economic activity in India is driving office demand for stationery products. Revenue outperformance highlights superior performance by DOMS, and as far as Flair is concerned, it reports best profitability among its players. So we've initiated coverage on both these counters. For DOMS, they've given a target price of 944, and for Flair, they've given a target price of 463. Both counters in focus on the back of this Nuvama report.
Okay, Ashisha, thank you so much for that. Surely keeping an eye out on that. But there are a lot of other brokerages in focus, and which stocks are they keeping an eye out on? Gaurav is here to take us through those details. Good morning, Gaurav.
Well, yes, good morning. Let's talk about Bharti Hexacom, because this is going to be in focus, because Jefferies has now indicated with buy rating and a target price of 1,080 rupees for the company. They believe that in the Indian telecom segment, Bharti Hexacom could be a best play. The company has strong growth outlook, company has healthy margins, and from here on we may strong free cash flow coming up in the company, which will help them to deleverage its balance sheet. And lastly, on the back of this, they are expecting EBITDA growth to be somewhere in the range of 2% CAGR in the next 3 years, and that is why we are seeing this bullish view coming up from on Bharti Hexacom. Next, let's talk about Varun Beverages, where Morgan Stanley has actually initiated with overweight rating and a target price of 1,701 rupees. What they believe is that company has already shown some strong track record when it comes to domestic as well as global opportunities, and from here on also company will outpace the food and beverage segment if we compare it with its peers. Lastly, they are expecting EBITDA to remain somewhere in the range of 24% and revenue growth to show up somewhere in the range of 19% in the next 3 years, and because of this, they are actually keeping Varun Beverage as the preferred picks when it comes to staples space, and that is why they are being bullish on Varun Beverages as well. Next, let's talk about QSR space, because McQuarrie has now cut down prices, I mean the target price for two companies. So Jubilant Food, they have cut down the target price to 300 rupees from previous price of 320 rupees, and for Westlife Foods, they have cut down the target price to 930 rupees. What they believe is that we have already seen weakness in the demand, and they're expecting this weakness to continue in the coming days as well. And on back of this, we may see some kind of cut in the EPS estimates from Street, and because of this, they have actually cut down the EPS estimates to 9 to 90% over the next 3 years. And they also have said that Jubilant Food actually remains as one of the marquee sales from Macquarie. So on back of this, we will definitely keep an eye on all these companies, because a strong view is coming up from brokerages on a couple of companies that we have seen just now.
Alright, Gaurav, well, thanks so much for taking us through that. We'll be watching out for all of those counters and sectors in today's trading session. Let's kind of move on then and look at the mutual fund activity for the month of March. What mutual fund have bought and sold. Now, deployment into equities has gone down on a month-on-month basis, coming at 22,600 crore rupees versus 26,700 in February. Ex-NFO net flows were also at 19,500 versus 18,000 crore last month. So that's a tick over there. Mutual fund houses in consensus have added exposure in industrials, staples, financials and telecom and media. On the other side, they've reduced their exposure in IT as well as building materials. Moving on, let's also take a look at these individual moves that they've made across sectors. And from the large cap space, mutual funds in consensus have bought ITC, HDFC Bank, REC, PFC and BEL. On the other hand, they've sold SBI, Jio Financial, Bank of Baroda, Bharti Airtel as well as IOCL. From the mid space, they've bought Samil, Sales, Suzlon, Bandhan Bank and Motherson Sumi. On the other side then, from the mid-cap space, they've sold Vodafone Idea, Ashok Leyland, NHPC Ireda as well as Federal Bank. Largely from the small-cap space, they've bought NLC, Aster DM, Crompton Greaves, Piramal Pharma as well as Aditya Birla AMC. On the sell side then, from the small-cap, they've sold MDC Steel, Hindustan Copper, Ujjivan Small Finance Bank, NBC as well as Jamna Auto. Now, what's interesting to note is some key takeaways from this entire list is that Federal Bank is from a buy stance to a sell from only over the course of a month. So that's a surprising move coming in. Piramal Pharma continues to be a buy across mutual fund houses, and NMD Steel, NHPC, Ashok Leyland, they continue to be a sell over the course of months for mutual fund houses.
Okay, surely interesting data there, Snehi. But with that, we're absolutely out of time on this edition of Market Cafe on ET Now. It's a goodbye from myself as well as the team who put this show together. As of now, Nifty indicating a bit of a negative start, but don't go anywhere. The market will take action.